So lovely to have all of you here. I think we've got an amazing turnout and really excited to start. So just a formal welcome to everyone who's made it here today. We're so glad to have you on a Monday night. Thank you to anyone in AIESEC Alumni Australia. A shout out to all of you. I know we've put you through a lot of different hassles and you guys have helped us out a lot with the marketing. So thanks so much. Andrew and David, perhaps I'll invite maybe one of you to share a couple of words before we proceed.
Hi everyone, welcome to another session of the A-Talks, and it brings me great pleasure to have Angela present to us and share us her practice and insights. I think her content is very, very valuable to the students as they go through their uni careers, but also for the alumni in their profession to make sure you've got your family work-life balance in check as well, especially leading up to Father's Day as well, so it's a good reminder. Yeah, so hand it over to the team. Enjoy the session.
Yeah, thanks so much, Andrew. Always so glad to see you here. So just a couple of things, a couple of pointers before we proceed. For all those old timers here, you guys know the drill. For anyone new here, there are just a couple of things that we expect. So firstly, please be present and respect the space. We've got a lot of great things lined up for you today, and we'd really like you to get as much out of it as possible. So please engage. Second and third, so this is just basic video etiquette. So keep your camera on, we'd love to see you, but also make sure you're not muted before speaking, and just mute yourself if you're not speaking as well, just so everything can run a bit more smoothly. And last but not least, this is probably the most exciting part because Angela's got a couple of exercises for you today. I'm not going to spoil it too much, but please be proactive, please engage. And don't be afraid to speak up at the Q&A session we have for you at the end. Yeah, so on today's agenda, super straightforward. An introduction, then we're going to dive straight into Mind Your Mojo by Angela. And then we're going to have around 5 minutes of Q&A. Then we're going to close with a couple of announcements at the end. Yep, so just about us, definitely not the most exciting part, that's yet to come. But AIESEC Alumni Australia and AIESEC have been working in collaboration for a series of 5 workshops called Youth Leadership Experience. And we're actually in our 3rd workshop of the series, and this is called Self-Management. And, you know, first of all, we really wanted to deliver quality content to you guys and to the community, just to inspire and to challenge you and the youth of tomorrow to be the leaders of, you know, the next generation. So on one hand, we like to give you a lot of practical good experience, but also we'd love to bring closer AIESEC and AIESEC Alumni Australia. And we thought this would be a really good way to, you know, sort of bond the 2 organizations together. So we're really excited to start with this workshop today. Yeah, so, you know, around 5 minutes of speaking, you're probably all tired of my voice at this point. Without further ado, I'm actually going to pass on to Angela, who's got a really exciting Mind Your Mojo workshop for today. So Angela, the floor is all yours. Take it away.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. And thank you so much for welcoming me into your community today to support you all, regardless of where you are in your well-being journey and what's happening in your lives right now. If it's exams, if it's COVID, if it's family, if it's business, whatever it is, I'm hoping that you'll be able to take a few little bits and pieces away from this Mind Your Mojo program that will help to support your own well-being and boost your resilience. Now, my Mind Your Mojo program is something that I offer through my business, Collective Intelligence, and we work with professionals to create high performance habits, everything from executive and leadership coaching to this resilience work, and also meditation for busy professionals. So if you're curious and you'd like to know more, at the end of our presentation, there'll be a slide with my LinkedIn QR code, so you can snap a photo and we can connect on LinkedIn. But to start with, I'm really curious to know where you are today. Where are you joining from today? We're all over the place and we have this great technology that brings us together. So if you're happy to, pop into the chat box where you're logging in from today. Yes, Melbourne lockdown, me too. I'm actually in Bayside in Melbourne, so at least I have some access to get down to the beach for a little walk and get down to the dog beach. That's where I try to get down to and pat everyone else's dogs. Excellent. Melbourne. Anyone from outside in the bigger, wider world? Beyond the 5Ks. Oh, Philippines, how exciting. Sydney, oh, Brisbane, how lovely. Oh, stuck in Clayton. Yeah, March. I know time is, it seems it's standing still as well as flying forward. It's a very strange time. But thank you. And like I say, so glad we have this technology to bring us together. And I will just say before we get started, I don't know about you, but I'm on several Zoom calls every day. And it's not just, will something weird happen, but what will the weirdness be? And for me, it's always the internet going down at the most crucial time. So in case that happens, I'll tell you, if I got any closer to my modem, I would be standing in it, but I do have my backup modem, so I'm all set to go and fingers crossed. So thank you very much. Yep, lots of people from Melbourne, Victoria, but for those of you who are outside, please enjoy the sunshine and the freedom for us. We'll be joining you as soon as we can. Now, just making sure that your mute is on. We are going to be doing some breathing exercises, and if we are all breathing and we're not muted, it really will just sound like Darth Vader has completely taken over the meeting. So, or it will sound like we're in a big wind tunnel. So please just make sure that your mute is on. And as we go through some of the exercises, by all means, if you're more comfortable to turn your video off, whatever feels right for you. I'm very happy to be the visual guinea pig, so that's no problem. Now, I would just like to, I'm going to see if I can flip the slide. No, that's okay. Pardon me, sorry, I was just, there we are. You know what, I'm moving so much faster than the technology. There we are, this is exactly where I want to be. I just wanted to let you know, this is a little bit of a roadmap of where we're going today. But before we get into things, I really just want to acknowledge you for pausing during the course of your super busy day. It's a busy time of year, whether you're in school or business or maybe a little bit of both. And I know that sometimes it really feels like we don't have time to put ourselves first. However, I liken that to saying that it's kind of like saying we don't have time to stop and put petrol in the tank because we're too busy driving. Well, we know what happens there. We do need to stop occasionally and fill up the tank a little bit. And it sometimes may feel like we just keep going and going and going, and that we can keep going, but we do need to stop occasionally. So thank you for doing that. I just want to tell you about where a lot of this work came for me was at the start of my career. I was finished university, and I was in that job where I had my pay my dues jobs, you know, where I had to move through a few companies and work my way up. And by the time I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I had what I thought, and I still regard really as one of the best jobs I could have had, working for an organization that shared my beliefs. I love the work that I did. I'd get up early in the morning because before my alarm would go off, because I was so excited to get to work. And somehow I burned out, and it totally took me by surprise. I was super healthy. I was marathon running. I was training people to run marathons as well. The irony was that I was traveling around North America talking about healthy, active living. And then one day I found myself in an emergency ward because I'd been having grand mal seizures. And the very condensed version of this story was that the neurologist said that I was like one big electrical panel and I had blown each and every fuse. So I had to start to learn ways, because I wasn't going to quit my job. I loved it. So I needed to find ways to stay really committed to the work that I loved and all of the things that I love doing without becoming so consumed and so burnt out that I wouldn't be able to continue doing those things. So that's where this comes from. helping now professionals, and as I say, regardless of where you are on your career path, helping you find ways that are really relevant for you to stay committed to all the things that are important without becoming consumed, so that you can carry on and do awesome things. So my formal background is in marketing and communications. And here in Australia, I've been a senior communications advisor to a Victorian premier, to several ministers. I've worked with diplomats and change makers in Canada, and I have here my Canadian cushion in recognition of your headquarters now being in Canada. So that's my ode to your HQ. Now, I've handled everything from, because my background was in crisis communications, I've worked in everything from handling bomb scares to situations with bedpans. And I know bedpans seems like it's a really arbitrary, simple situation. However, when you bring the politicians into it and there's budgets and dollars attached, that was even a more difficult situation than when the Royal Canadian Mounted Police called me one day to say that they had found some live ammunition on one of my work sites. Well, that was a little exciting, but I'll tell you, the bedpans pipped the bombs. So having to deal with crises and to stay really calm, because I never knew when I was going to deal with these, and also having to keep everyone calm around me, I've had to learn a few things. And I've also learned that the grown-ups in charge who I was working with, how important it was for them to also stay really focused, to be in a really good space physically so that they could be in a good space mentally and make those right decisions. So a lot of that is what I'm sharing with you too. So this is our roadmap. These are the topics I'm looking to touch on. But I thought, just as we get started, as you start to put your day away, you probably had a busy day, perhaps sitting at your computer, your laptop, or your phone, sending messages, work. One of the things that we do when we sit either with our phone in our hands or over our keyboard is that we tend to, and we do this very unconsciously, but what we do is we breathe really shallowly, and sometimes we hold our breath. So we're not breathing at all. So let's let go of the day and let's just start to transition into a little bit more of a relaxed mode if you're open to that. And it's a really simple exercise. It's really just checking in with yourself right now. Just noticing, what's your posture? Are your shoulders slumped forward? Are you feeling your spine just a little curve that you're coming forward? Starting to notice, how are you breathing? Can you feel the upper lungs filling? Maybe just noticing that the upper chest is rising. Perhaps noticing that your lower tummy is actually rising and falling. And if that's the case, if you can feel your breath down in your lower abdomen, you're having nice deep breaths. It's when we can only feel our breath here. That's when it's quite shallow. And that's connected to our fight or flight response. So our body's in a little bit of a stress state when we're shallow breathing. So just noticing, are your muscles rigid? How's your jaw? Where are your shoulders? Are they close to your earlobes? Is there any real estate between your earlobes and your shoulders? How are you feeling there? And just noticing. There's no right or wrong answer. Just noticing for yourself how your body is feeling. So in a moment, what I'll do is invite you just to have some breaths. And it sounds really simple because breathing is, you do it all the time. What we're going to do though is I'll invite you to breathe in through the nose and then exhale through the mouth. And this is where, again, we want to have mute on because we want to exhale through the mouth. And by all means, if you've had a big day, have a big audible exhalation, even have a roar if you want to. So when you're ready, just in the rhythm of your own breath, having a nice long exhalation slowly in through the nose. And just as and when you feel, your lungs nice and plump, there's lots of air in there. When you're ready, opening your mouth, having a nice big exhalation, and having that exhalation just as audible as is comfortable for you. Depending on what kind of day you had, you may, as I say, have a bigger roar or not. And let's do that again. Just a nice soft inhalation through the nose. And exhaling through the mouth. And no need to micromanage that. Just noticing also the sensations as you exhale. Perhaps noticing the jaw softening a little. Maybe noticing the shoulders. Just softening down. And then checking in with your body again, just noticing now how your posture is. How's your spine? Maybe sitting up a little bit straighter, maybe feeling just a little bit more space through the spine as well. So just a simple exercise just to get us to start to transition out of class or, techno mode, busy, into focusing on yourself. And we can do that so easily through the breath and the body. Now, I'm going to just change our slide. Great, so let's look at what resilience is. And resilience, there's so many different types of resilience. We hear about financial resilience and environmental resilience. Well, I want to focus on you. And I look at resilience as being a bit of a nimble dance between being really stable, secure, grounded, but also flexible, able to recalibrate or to change our minds and to change course and do what needs to be done. I'll often liken it to being more like bamboo. Bamboo is really strong, but it moves, it ebbs and flows, whereas our big solid oak trees, they are super strong. But quite often, those are the branches that we see falling down. So, or our gum trees here in Australia. Pardon me, I've done a bit of talking today. So our gum trees, sometimes we'll see them, or they've been called widow makers because they're big and solid, but sometimes the branches dry out, and those are the branches that fall and can be very dangerous. Whereas when we're a little bit more like the bamboo, we can ebb and flow with the change in the tides and all those other metaphors that I'm getting carried away with. Now, resilience, just as what we eat, the amount of sleep we get, our diet and exercise, resilience is one aspect of our overall well-being. And I define resilience as our capacity to manage life's inevitable and unexpected challenges and to recover from adversity. Now, I believe that you had a chance to go through the brief resilience scale that was sent to you. And I'm really curious, were you surprised by your results? I'd love to know, just pop in the chat box, yes, like a Y or an N for no. Just curious to know if you were surprised by your results. And, just to say that there are no right or wrong answers with this resilience scale. It's really just a tool to give you some insight as to where you are with your own resilience. And if your score is perhaps a little bit lower than you had expected, no problem. We're going to go through a few things to help you consider boosting your resilience. And for those of you who perhaps ranked at the higher end of the scale, awesome, that's great. We want to look at ways to keep you there. Now, resilience is really about living through life's inevitable challenges, and it's not about denying them. And resilience generally comes from a number of inner resources or psychological capabilities, such as how we relate to our thoughts. We have between 60 and 80,000 thoughts a day, so it's our relationship to those thoughts. It's compassion and empathy and gratitude as well, just to name a few. And over time, with consistent repetition, we start to create habits that over time become hardwired traits that ultimately result in a set of resilience skills that we have for life. Now, I have another question for you. I'm so curious. How many of you, because we're 3/4 of the way through the year, decided to come up with New Year's resolutions? Did you set any New Year resolutions back in December? I don't need to know what they are, but I'm just curious to know how many of you set them. Now, I know it's been a pretty wacky year, so there are perhaps some things that weren't able to come to fruition, but of those of you who set New Year's resolutions, I'm curious to know, how have they worked out for you? Have you been able to action them? Have they become part of your life? Did they integrate in the way that you had intended to? I know that a few people in my network always set New Year's resolutions, and usually by this time of year, they're but a distant memory. And it made me think, well, why is that? Well, here's the next question. Who brushed their teeth today? And yeah, who brushed their teeth yesterday? Pretty good chance you brush them again tomorrow? Yes. Well, what's the difference between brushing our teeth and creating a New Year's resolution. Well, the difference is that brushing our teeth is a habit. It's a habit that we've created. We aren't just born and innately start brushing our teeth when they grow in. That's something that we're taught, and we have to get in the habit of doing. So resilience is no different from good dental hygiene. It's about setting habits, about creating the habit, setting it, and then having the discipline to continue to repeat it so that it just becomes part of life. And I think, let's start as we plan to go on, regardless of where you are in your career. If you're, about to graduate, going into like an amazing job, or you've started one, regardless of where you are, let's start as we plan to go on, being resilient, being well so that we can do well. Because I see it as the first and the last person we ever lead is ourselves. So it all needs to start with us. Now, I focus on 4 very specific aspects of resilience: social, emotional, physical, and mental resilience. So social resilience. These are the people who support us and who we support. Who is it that, when life goes sideways, that we can reach out to, that we really know has our back? And I found it interesting this morning watching the news on ABC. They had the resilience officer from the Red Cross being interviewed, because today is the start of Red Cross's Emergency Preparedness Week. And one of the things that he said was that social connectivity is a cornerstone to getting through difficult times. Now, while particularly in Victoria, we may not be able to sit down physically with our friends, we can still send messages. We can phone, that wild thing, actually use our phone to make a phone call, but we can send text messages and jokes and whatever it might be, just to stay connected. So that's our social resilience. Our emotional resilience, that's around our emotional intelligence, having an understanding of how we're feeling, and also self-regulating with regard to our emotions. So an awareness of our emotional state, and also an awareness of the emotional state of those around us. Now, I know things have been pretty tough lately, so I thought I'd share a few ways that you can really quickly improve your mood. If the day is just, sometimes we're going to have bad days, and that's totally to be expected. But sometimes, if you find, I've just been in the doldrums for too long today, I need to shake things up a little bit, but you don't have time. Here's 3 really quick ways. Exercise. Within 30 seconds of exercising, we start to feel better. Everything's moving, so we can literally just shake off the stress or shake off whatever we're feeling within 30 seconds. Just a quick movement, pop on the floor, a few push-ups, whatever it might be, and off you go. Music. Within 7 seconds, our mood starts to change when we hear music that is important to us. I often talk to people about what is your power song, or create a playlist of your power songs, those songs that really just get you energized and change, put you in a good mood. And laughter. Our mood can change immediately with a good laugh. So whether it's having a little library of YouTube clips or jokes or whatever it might be that suits you, that make you laugh, but send them around to your friends as well. So our physical resilience. When we have resilient bodies, we can better withstand stress and our bodies will heal faster. So if we can, because we tend to sit a lot, try not to sit for more than an hour at a time, and perhaps even set an alarm on your phone if you need to remind yourself to get up and moving. 4th, our mental resilience. When we are mentally resilient, we have better mental focus, more discipline, determination, and willpower. So one way to engage our brain is to do really fun things. I call them neurobics, or they are called neurobics. They're aerobics for our brain. So this is things like brushing your teeth with your opposite hand. And yes, it's going to be messy for a little while. Using the keys, just using your opposite hand to use the keys to unlock your car door. Different fun little ways. And if you're interested, I actually have a list of different neurobic activities. So if you're interested, please contact me. Now, people who regularly boost these 4 aspects, they've been shown to live 10 years longer than those who don't. Now, our mental resilience is super important right now. kind of mind over matter right now. So, which is why I thought we would experience a fun way to demonstrate how we can boost our mental resilience, rather than asking you to brush your teeth with your opposite hand right now. But this is a way to help improve perspective, concentration, and discipline. So if you're open to it, I'll invite you to stand away from your desk if that's available to you. And what I'm going to ask you to do in a moment is to snap your fingers 50 times. If your hands are cold and snapping isn't going to work for you today, you can clap. You can even tap your foot, whatever you can allows you to keep pace for 50, to the count of 50. Now, here's the exciting bit. So you're going to snap or clap 50 times, either counting from 1 to 50 or 50 to 1, or here's the challenge, here's the brain challenge, counting back from 100 in increments of 7. So 100, 93, 86, 79, 72, whatever it might be. Okay, are you ready? So when you're ready, getting into snapping or clapping position, and let's go 50 times using whatever counting method you choose. Awesome. Did anyone count back from 100 in increments of 7? Yay! How you had to be really focused, right? That's one way to boost our mental resilience. Oh, upwards in increments of 3. Thank you. I'm going to use that one. Excellent. All right. So, as I say, what we're dealing with right now, a lot of it is mind over matter. So we want to boost our mental resilience as well. And I know down here in Victoria, in Melbourne, with the stage 4 restrictions that we've been living with, it certainly felt like the light at the end of the COVID tunnel hasn't been shining as brightly as it was. So, but we've got a couple more weeks to go, fingers crossed. And I'm just wondering, I don't think it's just me, but I'm wondering, I'd like to know from you, is the uncertainty and unpredictability of our current times getting to you? Just yes or no in the chat box. I'd be really curious. It is a very interesting time. Yeah, and you know, from a psychological perspective, uncertainty and unpredictability can be 2 of our greatest stressors. So, you know, if you're not feeling it, it's normal. You know, it's really to be expected. So don't be hard on yourself. Understand, you know, this is the way it is for a lot of us, and it's not surprising. Now, the ongoing unpredictability of coping with this pandemic is throwing so many of our, you know, our normal expectations into confusion and chaos. And without a definitive end in sight, it's kind of like knowing the difference between we're almost at the finish line of our marathon, only to be told, as we were in Victoria, you know, we were told 6 more weeks. So to me, that was as though I was getting to the end of the marathon and being told 6 more kilometers. And then, you know, you get to almost to the end and you're told another 2 or whatever it is. So, you know, what happens is that we prepare ourselves, and that creates expectations. So when those expectations aren't met, it affects us. So it is totally normal to feel depleted, and yes, sometimes out of control. Let me see. Sorry, I have 2 keyboards. There we go. There we are. Now, I think it's important to put all of this into perspective. And really by that, I just mean that, you know what, it's like this now. And we're going to get through this. And there will be another side eventually. You know, even after the worst events in human history, there is eventually another side. And the more challenging that our outer world can be, whether it's living through a pandemic or any other life challenge, whatever it is, it becomes more important then to start to draw on our inner strengths, such as coping and resilience. So we want to boost them. Now, while we can't always change the challenges of our outer world, what we can do, there are a few things that we can do. We can control how we react to those challenges, how we navigate them, you know, learn ways to cope with our anxieties, reaching out, having those social networks. Also, sometimes just knowing that we've done all that we can to prepare, that will help us to cope with whatever comes our way. And I think I had shared with some of you, was it last week or earlier this, not earlier this week, it must have been last week. The lines have totally blurred around time. But I can remember when I was in university and I had a study partner, I had my supervisor, all of those things in play. But when I would sit down to write the exam, I thought, I don't remember anything. I don't know anything. And I had to really change my inner dialogue to remember, I know it's in there, it's gotta be in there. I've done all the right things. I stuck to my study plan. I had my advisor. I have actually done all of this. A few deep breaths. So recalling that, yes, I had actually done everything I could to prepare. And off I'd go. So sometimes just recalling that and recalling our strengths. So bringing to mind those times in life where you have felt really strong and determined. And that could be any number of things. Maybe it was when you pushed through, a really hard day in your life. Maybe there was a tough year, something that happened, but you made it through. A difficult childhood, a difficult family situation, whatever it might be. And then realizing, you know what, I am still here. I'm still standing and I'm okay. Now, tuning into that sense and really feeling it again, it creates positive changes in our brain. And you may have heard about neuroplasticity. It's a topic I'm fascinated with, and I do a lot of study around, particularly with the meditation work that I do, but that's for another day. So I'll just come back to this. When we experience something beneficial, such as gratitude for what is good in our life, or just even acknowledging our resilience, and then staying with that experience for a breath or two, really feeling it in the body, we start to weave these inner strengths into the fabric of our nervous system. And our nervous system is really shaped by what we both think and feel. So we do have the power to change our brains for the better. And we're going to go through an exercise later to experience this. But for now, let's just look at the basic physiology of stress. There we go. I'm just zipping along. I'm just waiting for the slide to come with me. That's fine. Now, our nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, is a part of the nervous system that's responsible for regulating our body processes that are done without any conscious effort. So our breathing, our digestion, our heartbeat, and there are two main subsystems, the sympathetic, which is our stress state, so that's fight, flight, or freeze, and then our parasympathetic, which is our peaceful state. And both are important for our survival. We do need to be able to deliberately calm ourselves so that when we are stressed, we're able to calm ourselves so that we can protect the major systems in our bodies. So our cardiovascular system, our immune system, and digestion. Now, back in our cave dwelling days, our sympathetic nervous system, that stress state, was really critical to our survival. If we were foraging in a forest for food, we noticed a predator off in the distance, our autonomic nervous system, so our stress state, would kick in, prepare our bodies for survival, to either take flight or be prepared to fight. Basically, I eat it or it eats me. And sometimes the freeze response is what's required. And we see that sometimes when animals play dead. When we're in this fight, flight, or freeze state, it's all systems go. Our brain activity just cranks up. Our stress hormones, cortisol, is released. Our blood pressure rises, our breathing, short and shallow. Just as I was saying at the beginning of our session, where's your breath? And our adrenaline is heightened. Now, in our contemporary lives, we may not need that stress state to help us run from lions and tigers, but it will help us meet a deadline. It will help us get through that exam to be really, really cranked up, everything ready to go and make it happen. Now, so that's where you can see how it's helpful. Generally, outside of those situations, our survival responses are also being triggered by everyday events. Dealing with a difficult family member, a client, a colleague, perhaps being made to feel shameful, maybe receiving an email that makes us just feel yuck. We kind of take it as that was really hostile or nasty. Now, it's important to note that our fight or flight response is activated just when we perceive a threat. Threats, whether perceived or real, are equally threats. So, as I say, this can be a threat to our ego. We're feeling ashamed. It can be our negative self-talk. I should have known better. They're going to think I'm stupid. Why did I do that? Just that negative self-talk alone can put us into that stress state. So we do need to be able to bring it down. Because when we're in this state, resources are also being shunted from long-term projects, like building a strong immune system or digesting food. So we are meant to be in this stress state for only short periods of time. And it can take about 20 minutes for that state to wear off. So, we can be in it for some pretty prolonged periods. So, flip side of that, our peaceful state, our parasympathetic state, it's our rest, digest, recovery mode. Now, interestingly, we were designed to be in this parasympathetic state. I don't know about you, which one do you feel in more often than not? More of that heightened stress state or a chilled recovery state? I'm sure you know the difference. When the body is relaxed, that's when it restores itself. So when we have good quality sleep, our immune system has a chance to recalibrate. When we're awake and calm, the mind is clear, we're more creative, and that's when our clearest thinking and learning takes place. So when we're in a calm, focused state, it's our high performance state, when we perform our best. When we are in that parasympathetic state, our bodies reboot, our immune system recalibrates, our heartbeat and breathing is slow and deep, our blood pressure decreases, our digestive system is stimulated so it can process food, and the energy in our body then is used to restore and build tissue. So there's a lot going on, and we do need to be able to flip that switch between our stress state and our peaceful state. Now, I'm wondering, have you ever just pushed through either exams or projects, gone around the clock, pushed through to a deadline thinking, I just need to get to the holidays or on the other side of it, and then I'll rest? And then you do, and you get sick. You've got a cold, the flu, something happens, you catch a bug. Yeah. Well, this is your body kicking in, and this is your parasympathetic system saying, it's my turn now. So this binge and purge approach to stress management really isn't effective. We need to weave in the recovery into the cracks and crevices of our day so that our blood pressure comes down, our digestion is regulated, and so on. And if we look at elite athletes, and we don't need to be an elite athlete, but if we look to them, recovery is such an important aspect of their overall training, and we can learn a lot from them. So we do need to build in this recovery regularly. Now, I want to touch on stress, anxiety, and burnout. Stress and anxiety are slightly different, and when you're feeling it, it probably doesn't matter what the definition is, but I thought I would share it with you so that you're aware of it. Now, stress and anxiety are terms that are often used synonymously, but they are different. And there we go, thank you. Stress is a normal condition. It's experienced by everyone. We all experience it. And stress can be thought of as that state of readiness, as I've said, associated with a fight or flight response. Within limits, it's beneficial. And as I said, there is a difference between stress and anxiety. So just touching on anxiety, anxiety is typically characterized as a persistent feeling of apprehension or dread in situations that aren't actually life-threatening. Yeah, felt stress a couple days after exams. Yeah, it's interesting. Once the exam is finished, if that's what the stressful situation was, and you're still feeling it afterwards, that could potentially be anxiety. Yeah, lots of deadlines, lots of pressure, for sure. And everyone experiences stress and anxiety at one time or another. And anxiety really it's a normal, beneficial emotion. Generally, stress is a response to that external cause, so the exams, tight deadline. When the stress subsides, once that situation has been resolved or wrapped up, sometimes the after effect, that lingering, can be the anxiety. The positive side to anxiety is that it triggers us to do something. As with all emotions, they all are sending us a little message to do something. But I do another workshop totally on emotion. So again, for another day, we all just need to go on retreat together one day. Now, as I say, generally, anxiety is triggering us to activate a coping response. And Dr. Rick Hansen, who's a neuropsychologist, he describes anxiety's proper function as a signal, much like a light that flashes on the dashboard of your car. So when the light is flashing, we're being alerted to something that we need to pay attention to, such as, I've got a deadline coming up. I need to think about that. I have an exam coming. Am I prepared? It's triggering us. We're thinking about something in the future. So it can be useful. When anxiety is not useful is when that anxiety alarm is just noise, like a car alarm that is just blaring, and no one is turning it off. So if we're starting to feel that it is starting to take over our lives, we're not wanting to go out and be with our friends, that it's really impacting our lives, that's when it's time to reach out for help. Now, generally, action binds anxiety. We tend to feel less anxious just by taking some kind of skillful action. Now, in the moment, that can be checking in with our thoughts. Are they over-exaggerated? Am I catastrophizing? We can pause and use our thoughts to calm the body and bring in a more positive, or at least a neutral emotion to what we're feeling. Again, reaching out to our support network. Now, it seems, stress, people have experienced these emotions around difficult times. I'm wondering, has anyone actually experienced a panic attack? Because that's, a panic attack is quite an experience. Now, in Australia, about 5% of Australians will experience a panic attack sometime in their lifetime. So because we're living in these really challenging, uneasy times, I wanted to share this with you. A panic attack, what it is a sudden episode of intense fear that triggers severe physical reactions when there's no real danger or apparent cause. And panic attacks can be really frightening. I find them terrifying. When panic attacks occur, you might even think that you're totally losing control or having a heart attack. I still remember my first one was when I was in university. I can remember exactly where I was. And I wish I had known this back then. Now, panic attacks, they typically begin really suddenly without any warning. Like everything that is difficult in life, it never comes at a time when it's convenient. So panic attacks, they can strike at any time. When you're driving a car, sitting at your desk, in what even might be a very calm environment, but there's something that has triggered it. And they can happen just once, they can occur frequently. And they have a lot of different variations. You may feel fatigued and worn out after a panic attack. I wanted just to share on this slide some of the symptoms, some of the signs and symptoms, but what's important is for you to know what your neutral zone is. For some people, if they start to feel hot, that may be a sign that they're stressed, but other people, if they get really chilly, hands get really icy, for them, cold might be more of a sign. So it's important to know what your own neutral zone is. Now, earlier, when I was talking about recalling our strengths and tuning into that sense and really feeling it, how that can help make positive changes in our brain, well, this is that exercise. And it's really helpful to experience before you have a panic attack. This is the prep, so that should you ever need this exercise, you've already trained your brain. Because by practicing this regularly and in circumstances that are very neutral, what we start to do is we're training our brain so that when we start to move into the activity, into the exercise, the brain quickly remembers the pattern of the exercise, so that once we begin, we calm down almost instantly. Now, you can do this while you're waiting for the kettle to boil, if you're able to go and catch a train or a bus, while you're standing waiting for that. So if you're open to trying this exercise and having a little play, and again, if you prefer not to have your video on, I totally understand. But what we do is we just start by bringing hand to heart. And, if you watch people throughout the course of your day, or even notice for yourself how often during the day you actually may put your hand on your heart. So if people were to see you doing this, they're not going to think it's weird. We all do this so very often. We may say, oh, I was just thinking about that, or, oh, how are you? just watch to see how often do you put your hand on your heart or how often others do. So over time, this just becomes like a normal thing. So we start by having our hand on our heart, and if it feels comfortable for you to close your eyes, I leave that up to you. If you want to keep your eyes open, perhaps just allowing the lids just to come down a little bit. Really, all we want to do is minimize any visual distraction, just so that you can focus on your own inner experience. So just having nice breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And starting to cast your mind to one moment in time when you felt really safe and happy with another human being. And this can also be a pet. It doesn't need necessarily to be a person. If you have a cat or a dog that really makes you feel happy, whomever you may have been with at a time when you felt really safe and happy. You don't need to go through the details of the relationship or the situation, but just recalling that really nice moment. And as you remember this moment of feeling safe and happy, letting yourself experience the feelings of that moment, noticing where do you feel it in the body? Or what are you feeling in the body? Maybe there's a warmth or a tingling in your heart. Maybe the palm of your hand is just warming up a little bit. Perhaps noticing how your shoulders relax. Maybe the jaw drops. Maybe your back softens, or even your abdominal muscles just soften. And just staying with that feeling. Just staying with these sensations, just connecting with them, remembering them. Where are you feeling it in your body? And just having 2 or 3 breaths here, nice and easy. Just breathing in and out through the nose. Remembering this time when you're feeling safe, happy, very much at ease, you're safe, and everything's okay. And just as you complete those breaths, feeling relaxed, feeling safe. If your eyes have been closed, allowing them to gently open. And just releasing the hand. And this is a practice that you can do many times a day. I do encourage you to do it often when you're in a nice neutral zone, so that when the time comes, should you need this practice, it's there for you. And fingers crossed, you may never need this practice, but what a lovely thing to do for yourself several times a day even, to help bring your body into that parasympathetic state and to just calm. And so with that, in this nice calm state, I'm going to wrap up my presentation, and I'm going to thank you for joining me and paying attention and learning a few things along the way, considering how you might put these into action by putting your own resilience strategy together. After this session, you are going to receive a copy of my resilience strategy. Pardon me, we didn't get to all the burnout. There we go. Next time, absolutely next time. I had so much fun just being with you and sharing those pieces. You are going to receive a resilience strategy. I encourage you to think about how you can weave resilience in those 4 aspects through the course of your day, your week, your month, to be open perhaps to having a resilience buddy, someone in your community who you can support and who will support you in boosting your resilience regularly, and have fun. It doesn't have to be, big and crazy. Just what are the things that are really simple for you to do each and every day to look after yourself? So thank you. There's going to be a slide with my LinkedIn details. I would love to connect with you. And thank you very much for allowing me to join you today. And I'll hand it back. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Angela, for your amazing workshop and your words of wisdom. I think we all have a lot to take away from that. And just going back where you said we have 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day. So just in that short period of time, we all had, roughly 2,500 thoughts. So I hope everyone had a real think about this and could take and learn a lot from it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now we're just going to move on to a 5-minute Q&A session. So please don't be shy, don't be embarrassed, don't be afraid to unmute yourself. Or if you've got a couple of questions, you can put it in the chat as well. So at the end of the 5-minute mark, I'll cut you off. So the floor is all yours, guys. Please ask Angela anything you want.
I just have a question.
Yes, hello.
Hi, I'm Hash. When we are doing those exercises and we are clearing up our mind and staying calm, what if we can't stay calm and we can't actually get off those things, that stressful things that's going on right now during our times? What should we do then?
Yeah, you know, that we have so many thoughts, and it really is about our relationship to them. And in the meditation classes that I teach, I say, welcome your thoughts. You know, we're not going to stop them. Just as our eyes are designed to see and our ears are designed to hear, our brains are designed to think. So we're always going to have thoughts. So please don't demonize yourself for having them. Your brain is brilliant and you're going to have amazing thoughts. One of the things you might consider doing is, you know, if you are sitting or even if you're just having a cup of tea and you think you're having a little chill out break and the thoughts come swirling like a tornado in, that's okay. Notice perhaps what they are. And even just sitting, writing down, if you journal, or even just sitting down and noticing, you know, what are the things that come up for you? Just noticing what they are. Again, not allowing, you don't need to feel bad for having all these thoughts. Just noticing, what are they? You know, is it around school? Is it family? Just pay attention to what are the things, what are the themes maybe that are jumping out for you? And is there something telling you, I need to pay attention to that? You know, is it directing your attention to something that you might address? And then once you address whatever that might be, just notice if those thoughts don't perhaps plague your mind as much. Does that help?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And someone's asking brief tips for avoiding burnout. Look, if there's one thing, the WHO, the World Health Organization, came out last year saying that burnout is a real thing. Now, if there's one thing you can take away, burnout isn't just about overwork, it's about under recovery. So again, this is why we want to build our recovery. We want to weave it into our day in lots of different ways, whether it's social, emotional, physical, and mental resilience, every day in different ways. That's how we're going to avoid burnout.
I think we had a couple of questions earlier on. I'm just going up in the chat. I think Rachel asked, what if you can't think of a relevant situation when you're doing those exercises? Yep,
so the hand on the heart exercise, you know what? You may just sit and notice how you're feeling in the moment, or create one. You know, think about, what if I were to go outside? You can imagine one. You know, just in your mind, go off into an imaginary place. Where would I feel safe and comfortable? Maybe it's being on a holiday, or perhaps on a holiday I may go on one day. You know, starting to think about, if I could sit and have a chat with my friend about this, how would I feel? So if you can't recall a specific situation, create one and then allow that to be your practice scenario and really sit with that. So as I say, we have these amazing minds and they create all kinds of things. So let some of the creations work for you as well. So create an imaginary scenario of where you would be safe. Who would you be with? What would it feel like? What would the sounds be? Maybe what would the smells be? And really start to have that, the sense of it in your, you know, using all of your senses, smell, taste, touch, whatever it might be. And to start to really build that into the neural pathways so that that can just be your calming scenario.
Yeah, thanks so much. Maybe we'll have time for 2 more questions. I think Arch asked a very similar question, so hopefully that answered your question there. I'm just looking at Shigel's question. So what are some of the ways we can identify if we have burnout?
Here are a few ways. If you have compassion fatigue, if your care factor gets to be pretty much to zero, that you're just kind of going through the motions, physically exhausted, feeling mentally exhausted. I know for myself, I've used the term, I feel as though my soul is exhausted, where I'm tired physically, my brain is exhausted, and it goes on for a period of time. You know, sure, we're going to get to, some days we get to a Friday and think, oh, there's nothing left. But, you know, when this becomes pervasive and it goes on for a period of time, compassion fatigue, like I say, we're just disinterested. We disconnect from people who are important to us. We disconnect from the things that we love to do. You know, we're not joining our friends for lunch or whatever it might be. When our patterns start to really change and we become quite inward. And, you know, the quality of our studies, you know, the exams that we're writing, if our essays are, the quality of our work, when it starts to dip, when things start to change, pay attention. And for everyone, it might be a little bit different. That's why it's important to have a good network of support people. They may come to you and say, you know, hey, I've noticed that, or you may say to someone, you know, I've noticed things have been a little bit different for you lately. You want to have a chat? You know, here's what I've noticed for you, should they be open to talking. But generally for yourself, physical and mental exhaustion, compassion fatigue, and the quality of your work starts to dip. Those would be the main three.
Yeah, thanks so much. We might wrap it up with the final question. This might be a more personal one, but have you made any changes to your self-care regimen when you first started?
Oh yeah, look, it's changed quite a bit over the years. It depends on what I'm interested in, where I am and what I'm doing. And the big pieces for me have been getting out in nature. That's really important. And the two pieces have been my meditation practice and yoga, but also staying in contact with people. And with all of my family being overseas, that's a very difficult thing. So I've had to change my strategies, how and when I'm connecting with them, because they're in a totally different time zone as well. What should I do if I feel isolated? Would you like me to respond to that one, Andrew?
Yeah, maybe we'll wrap it up there. So if you guys have burning questions, and I'm sure I do as well, please feel free to chuck it in the Discord channel we have for you in the discussions forum. So we'd love to hear from you there. But Angela's been so kind to provide her contacts for us. For those who are a bit more tech savvy, she's got the very lovely QR code on the left. For those more traditional, there's a LinkedIn and website. And she's also kindly provided her mobile for contacts as well. So just before we finish up, I want to say, like, great seeing all of you today. We really appreciate it. That's awesome. But what would be even more awesome is if you could fill in the feedback form for us. And this is just really going to help us deliver excellence and good quality workshops for you in the future. So make sure this is the first thing you guys fill in when you leave the workshop today. So Angela, thank you so much. I'm sure we've all learned so much about resilience today. We just do a little thing in AIESEC where if we appreciate someone and we really like what they've done, we snap. So if you guys really love today's workshop and you feel like you've learned a lot, either put a snap in the chat or you could snap like this.
2 snaps back for you as well.
Yeah, that's so good. Very great, guys. Lovely. So, so just before we come together and take a group picture, so participants, if you could stay back a little bit after the workshop, we've got a couple of announcements lined up for you. For all those in AIESEC Alumni Monash, or AIESEC Alumni, first of all, big thank you for all of you who came. We love seeing you. If you want to leave after the group photo, you're free to do so. Otherwise, please stay back. We'd love to have you join for us in the announcements. Before the group picture, Andrew or David, would you guys like to add anything else?
Andrew?
David? I just want to say big thank you to Angela, sharing a lot of love and care to the group, which I'm sure they will take that into their practice for the rest of their lives. It's resonated with some things to me with my corporate clients at the moment, even as we speak. So yeah, very, very, very grateful for you sharing and opening up. Yeah. David?
Same to me. Yeah, look, same to me. And just so that all of you know, when we've been finding speakers for sessions like this, you know, we've been delving into our own contacts, and it's a wonderful contact of mine that referred me to Angela in the first place. And this session is living proof as to why that person pointed me to Angela. You know, it's a beautiful session, and we really appreciate you being so generous, Angela.
Thank you.
And just from a personal point of view, you know, I used to think I was Superman, and I was successful and doing well, and thought by working harder I could overcome challenges in the business. So to answer someone's question about when do you know you're having a burnout, I literally woke up one morning, no notice, no warning, and I had chronic fatigue. So all these sorts of things that Angela is suggesting, they are absolutely critical. They are so important because none of us are Superman. We all have our limits. So I got so many takeaways myself from them. And one of them for sure was what you said, Angela, about the need to institutionalize like a recovery system in your life. And for me, like I said in the chat at one stage for COVID, one thing that I do now on a very regular basis, I force myself. Well, actually, I don't force myself anymore, but I go to my balcony, I have a cup of coffee, I listen to Mozart, and I give myself a little bit of time to do that, whether I think I need it or whether I don't. So anyway, congratulations to Monash. You guys have done a fantastic job. The deck was beautiful, and Angela, thank you so much for your content.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Just one last thing before the massive wholesome group pick. Usually we mention this at the start, but we'd really love to say this, which is in the spirit of reconciliation of AIESEC. We definitely pay our respects to past and present elders, and we acknowledge all the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and their connection to the land, the sea, and the community. And we, of course, extend this respect to any other Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander origin peoples in the extended community as well around the nation. So without further ado, let's have a really nice, wholesome group pick. So I'm going to stop sharing so we can all see your lovely faces.
Yeah. Okay, so hi, I'll be taking the group picture. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the next page. Yep. Okay.